Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for clicking on today's video. Today I am sharing some organizational tips for small kitchen spaces. Now these are practical and easy solutions that you can implement into your own kitchen space, especially if it is a smaller one, just like mine. So if you're in an apartment, a condo, honestly, even a bachelor's suite, this will work for you. Essentially, it's just about optimizing the space that you have and being strategic in where you put things as well. So even if you're not a huge cook and you're not typically doing a lot in the kitchen, there's no doubt that you have some sort of groceries that you have to replenish and probably a little bit of dining ware as well that needs to be organized and put away. These tips are going to help you just have a more efficient process and make all of those different tasks a little bit more enjoyable. So my very first tip when it comes to small kitchen organization is to be strategic in where you place your items. I know that sounds so basic and I need to elaborate a little bit on that. So we were fortunate enough to be able to renovate our kitchen before we moved in. So when I designed it, I was able to kind of configure where I wanted our drawers and our cabinets and just where certain things were going to be. And that was fantastic because it gave me an idea of where all of our stuff was actually going to be placed. However, this is applicable no matter what type of layout you have. The idea here is to essentially be smart about where you are putting things so that when you reach for them, it's not a huge feat, if that makes sense. So a few things that you can consider when you are, strategizing where to put things is the size and the weight of the item. So for example, let's just say pots and pans. These are a little bit heftier of items, and so typically you wouldn't want to be storing them on, an upper cabinet because it just doesn't make sense for you to be pulling something down so frequently that is heavy and could potentially cause injury. So for us, we use a middle drawer, and it's a larger drawer obviously, so that all of them fit in one spot, and they are right beside the stove as well, which makes it very convenient when I need to cook. I just pull it out and put it right down, and there's really no effort whatsoever involved. Another thing to consider when you are strategizing on where to put your items is how often the item is used. So we have a panini maker, and we rarely ever use it. So that is something that is on one of the very top shelves in our cabinets. It is not in an easy access spot. I have to grab a chair if I ever want to use it. But for our plates and our cups and our cutlery, those are in super easy to find spots, and they're also in the top drawers. The cups are obviously in a cupboard, however, they are very easy to access. So you want to just make sure that the things that you're using most frequently, cleaning most frequently, and putting away are in spots that actually make sense. Okay, and the last little thing to consider kind of ties into what I said about our pots and pans by the oven in, tip number 1. And this one is to essentially just figure out where it makes the most sense to place the item. So where is it that you grab for the closest to when you actually need an item? When I am cooking food, I don't want to have to go all the way across to the other side of the kitchen. No matter how small it is, it's still just an extra 5 steps that I don't want to take if I don't need to. So our plates and bowls are actually right beside the stove and the oven. This makes plating food so much easier, especially when we have guests. And it actually turns out that the drawer is closest to our dining room, which is right over here. You walk through and that's the kitchen. So if there's ever, a dinner party going on and we need an extra plate or an extra bowl, it's easy for me to just get up, quickly grab one, and put it on the table. The same goes for our cups and cutlery. So the cutlery is essentially kind of right beside our plates and bowls. So that's a super easy access place. And then our cups for, drinkware, these are right beside the fridge as well as right beside the sink. So it makes the most sense because when you want to get a glass of water, you just grab a cup and go right to the fridge. It's just easier than having it on the opposite side of the kitchen. My next organization tip for small kitchen spaces is to make use of drawer dividers and inserts. I feel like these are very underrated, especially for people who have a lot of different cooking utensils and tools in their drawers that are just packed full of stuff. But honestly, these are the reason why our drawers are never untidy and why you can always find something where it's supposed to be. Because honestly, they keep the whole drawer organized. It allows you to see everything that is in it. And it also just makes for an easier process when you are either cooking and needing something to use or having cleaned it and needing to put it away. This is also applicable for when you have somebody in your kitchen helping you that doesn't necessarily live with you and know where everything goes exactly. It makes sense to have dividers and inserts because you can categorize the different types of items, and as soon as you see it, ideally, you would kind of know where something is actually supposed to go. I use the drawer inserts for smaller drawers, and then for larger drawers like our baking one, I use a divider, and this just helps to kind of segregate the spaces into their own little sections, and it makes it easier to just keep the drawer tidy. My next tip is to make use of categorized spaces. So this is tying into all of the other things that I've said, and a few of the different categories that we personally have in our kitchen are the baking drawer, we have a baking utensils drawer, a cooking utensils drawer, a spice drawer, a knives section in a drawer, which is shared with the spices, but it is a categorized area. We've got our cutlery and serveware, things that would typically go together on the table. We have a cereal cabinet, a medicine section of the cabinet. We've got a snack drawer, a breakfast drawer. You kind of get the idea here. And not only does this make the whole kitchen just make more sense, but it also helps you when you're putting things away, for example, from the dishwasher, to know exactly where it's going. It's kind of like a habit almost in a way. When you are putting something in the same spot every single time, it just becomes, like a brainless task. You don't even have to think about it. You just put it away, and it takes a split second, which is so helpful, not just for you, but also for anybody that is helping you out in the kitchen, like a family or friend. Additionally, you're never going to be shoving your groceries into, any cabinet or drawer that the item fits in. You're always going to have a designated spot for those things, and it also makes putting the groceries away so much more enjoyable, I find. Tip number 4 is to actually discard the packaging of items. Now, this isn't going to be for everybody. I realize that, and that's totally fine, but I do see the benefit in removing unnecessary packaging. So, for example, boxes of cereal, we actually have canisters that we use, and I take the bag out of the box, open the bag, and pour all of the cereal into the canister. So one, it helps with, being able to visually see how much is actually left of that ingredient or item, and it also just helps to reduce the appearance of clutter in the kitchen. That is something that is major in small spaces. If you've got, boxes and boxes and jars all over your kitchen, shoved into your cabinets with no organization or, strategy in place, then it's going to be a little bit overwhelming. At least that's how I feel when that has happened to me. It's taken a while for us to kind of get into an organization system in the kitchen that works for us. So it's not like an instant thing, but it definitely does help. When you don't have that clutter around, you're able to see things more clearly. And honestly, I do find that it helps in reducing food waste because you're never, leaving things half full in a box, having them go stale or get moldy and everything like that. The next tip is kind of a pair with number 4, and that is to make use of labels. So if you are going to be discarding that unnecessary packaging and using your own storage containers and jars, the labels can be really handy in identifying what the items actually are and just making sure that you're always putting something in the same spot. For example, a different type of pasta. We have like 4 different jars that hold different pastas, and they are typically the same ones because that's kind of what we like and prefer. And so if we ever run out of something, I know, oh my gosh, okay, I need to get rigatoni in our next grocery trip, and you guys get the gist of that. But they can also be really helpful in identifying when something expires. So depending on what the item is, you might want to write down, when it's actually going to expire or when you put it in the jar, just so that you have an idea of when you need to discard the item. And last but not least, my final tip is to get rid of the excess. I probably should have started with this one because honestly, personally, 90% of the time that I have found a space continues to become disorganized and just cluttered and messy, the reason is because there's actually just too much stuff and there's no sense of organization because there's too much stuff. Like, everything needs to have a place. At least that's how I work when I'm organizing stuff. And so when there is so much clutter, duplicate items, things that we actually just don't need, stuff gets piled on top of each other. I'm sure that you guys have experienced this, whether it's in the kitchen or not. Any space, when there is excess, it creates clutter and can often be a cause of disorganization. So go through all of your cupboards, the fridge, the freezer, all of your drawers, figure out what you actually need versus are just keeping in case, and get rid of all of that excess stuff. Because when you have, a clean and tidy space, it's going to be much easier to identify what you own, what you need, and what you are, looking for when you're trying to grab something to cook or clean. And there you have it. Those are my tips for organizing a small kitchen space. I hope that you found this helpful in some way. I would love to know which of these ones you are incorporating in your own kitchen already, or if you maybe have some sort of organization tips yourself. Feel free to comment down below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps me on my channel to continue, making videos for you guys, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.